All right, so welcome. It is January 22nd or the 23rd. And I want to thank you all for joining us today and for your interest in somatic meditation as always. We are going to spend some time today starting to prepare our bodies in a very somatic way for Yoga Nidra. In the coming weeks, we're settling into this book on Yoga Nidra, and I'm going to be doing some training on it. And it just feels right to start to prepare our bodies for that. I've got a talk prepared, and after that you'll have a chance to introduce yourselves and respond to the talk. We had quite an interesting discussion this morning about it. But so let's begin by centering and grounding and breathing, and then checking in with our mantra as well. And then we'll turn to the teaching for today and each other and all that good stuff. So let's begin by connecting with the earth. Feeling the qualities of the earth. The stillness and the softness. The openness, the acceptance. Notice how that starts to come into your body. And how the support of the earth will lengthen your spine. Open up the back of your neck, the back of your head. Draw your ears over your shoulders. Make space between your teeth. Your tongue floats in your mouth. And then there's an openness in your body that allows you to drop into the internal experience of your body, the internal sensations of your body physically, but also the emotional tone of your internal felt experience of your body, and the energetic experience of your body. So all the layers of your internal experience start to become more clear. And then you can feel your breath coming into your lower belly. And just notice how the phrases of our mantra land for you today. Remembering that I am intrinsically good without exception, and that I have been given this precious opportunity of my unique life. I find ways to engage in my daily practice in everyday life. When I open to the vastness, stillness, silence, peace, and stability of the earth, that vastness, stillness, silence, peace, and stability opens into my body and being. Remembering that my heart is open, tender, and responsive, I enter into my relationships as part of my daily practice in everyday life. And then just take a moment to connect with and acknowledge our community here today, our circle here, our unique circle here. It's different every time. So there is our unique configuration here, but then also those that will join us on our recording. You will may join us again on recording, and also those in our community at large who we support through our practice as well. So today I wanted to talk about feel like our talk is really timely for us as a community, where we're at coming into this practice of Yoga Nidra in the next few weeks, where we're at reading Karen Brody's book, Daring to Rest, and just also the kind of unfolding that's happening for many of the members in our community. There's a lot of waking up to an inner experience that's happening for many people. And also just there's an intensity to the experiences of the happenings in many people's outer worlds as well. And I think that these things are all related. And so I wanted to kind of contextualize them and speak about them today. Because over the coming weeks and months, we're going to be exploring practices, including the one that I'm going to be teaching you today, which many of you are familiar with, but I think we're going to explore in a greater depth today. As well as Yoga Nidra, or sleep yoga. And these practices are designed to, or I feel the intention of these practices are, one of the intentions of these practices are, quite similar to somatic meditation and yin yoga. I just feel that they're so well intertwined. And when Maria asked me if she could include that yin class, I just do feel that they are work well together. They do connect you with your inner experience in a really beautiful way, in a way that works really well. And to say that this is incredibly different from our business as usual way of living is quite an understatement. You know, in reality, in our day-to-day experience and in the way our culture at large lives, for the most part, we're quite disconnected from our internal experience. Business as usual, and you know, the way we're talking about it and contextualizing it this month, this kind of new year, new me, it's very much up in our heads, where we are mesmerized by our thoughts, you know, and we really feel like we can control our lives. However, as we become more and more connected with our internal experience, as we all have experienced through these practices, through the yin yoga, through the somatic meditations, we are experiencing an increased range of emotional sensitivity and emotional intelligence. And not only are we waking up to our own inner experience, of our emotional bodies, of our energetic bodies, but we also start to, by extension, wake up to our own lives. So through the somatic meditation, through our yin yoga practices, what happens is there's a release of tension in our bodies. And you know, you experience this firsthand through 10 points, through holding a yin posture for 5 minutes. We tend to the tension releases. And then there's this openness that happens, and we're able to be more present to what's actually happening. And what that means is that we are more present to what's actually happening in our lives. And, you know, that may feel like at times it's beyond our capacity to meet them. You know, there's belief that is very much fed to us in mainstream culture, that the more we practice they're even called calming practices like yin yoga and meditation, the more we connect with our inner world, that the more our lives will become calm and peaceful and tidy, neat and orderly, more reliable and comfortable and secure and happy. You know, this is sort of the party line that's fed to us in our consumerist culture. And also, you know, that it's the Bill of Rights that's fed to us in marketing speak a lot of times. But what the truth is, as we start to connect with the internal layers of our bodies, we start to connect with the deeper layers of our emotions too. And this emotional territory is often territory that's been pushed aside and held very deeply within our body. And we know this from our yin yoga practices and also from somatic meditation, that when we start to get into those deeper layers of the tissues, the connective tissue, the fascia, the bones, the ligaments, and the cells, we're going really deep. And we can start to uncover information that can be inconsistent with the surface layer image that we project out into the world. But this is what can start to come through, right? The truth that's held deep within. And the result can be that there can be some anxiety around these two things. And we may tense up in response to the way that our lives feel like they're kind of out of control and unmanageable, right? Especially if we have this image of ourselves as somebody that's in control, or, we can handle it all, or, I'm emotionally stable, or I'm calm and cool and collected, right? And then what happens when anxiety starts coming forward, or tension starts coming forward, or a lot of tension starts coming forward? Like, that really messes with that self-image. But what's actually happening is that we're just waking up to a wholeness, to a full range of emotional experience. And with openness comes an openness to a full range of emotional experience that just wasn't available to us before. So, maybe before we were feeling about this amount of dynamic range of emotions. And now we're feeling like this much, So that's what's happening. Before, we were numb to the emotions of our lives. Because really, honestly, we were more slaves to the ideas that we had, the ideas we had about ourselves, the ideas we have about other people. These things keep us from actually seeing what's really happening. We're slaves to our schedules, our plans, and our agendas. And when we're so committed to those things, we're not really in touch with what's happening in our inner world. But when we practice this somatic meditation, when we practice yin yoga, things start to change. We really start to open up to an inner world of responsiveness, impressions and feelings. Experiences start to flow from within. We are able to respond more fully to what we're going through. Our inner world becomes bigger. It's almost like we get a syntax error on that automatic pilot. Like, it just doesn't work the way it used to. And the emotional range opens up, and feelings that we might not have expected to have start happening. When we live our lives completely up in our heads, wrapped up in our own agendas for ourselves, and not just for ourselves, but the way we think other people should behave, we're cut off from this internal experience. We're not really in touch with what's really happening in our physical body, for our emotional body, for our energetic body, right? We're tired, so what? Just keep going, right? Because, whatever needs to happen. But as we come more and more deeply into our internal body, we start to realize what's actually happening in our lives, the external situation. And I spoke about it yesterday in the book club. I realized, like, this 30-day challenge has not been healthy. It's not been healthy for me, for my family. It's not something I would choose to do again, not in the way that I've done it. Like, it was going along fine until it wasn't. And now it's just like exhausting and hard to keep up with. And it hasn't allowed me to be present to my internal landscape. It hasn't allowed me to be present to my family in the way that I want to be. But, you know, all that is feedback too, that's allowed me to see, you know, what's happening in my external world, what, you know, what's happening in my internal world, the kind of tensing that's happening. So that's helpful as well. So we wake up to our external situation. When the uncertain and the unimaginable happens, we're more aware of it. And the reality of our life just is, we're more present to it. Because we've, you know, 5 minutes at a time in yin yoga, we're there with the intense experience. And we've trained, right? We've trained in the intensity of pigeon pose. We've been trained in the intensity of lunge pose. 2 minutes at a time, baby. And so then when life throws us a curveball, we're like, yeah, I know what this is like. And we know how to be present 2 minutes at a time. And it's not that our life has changed. You know, there's nothing wrong with us. It's that our capacity to be present with the intensity of our life has changed. We're more able, whereas before we might just like hunker down and sort of, you know, it's almost like a denial, right? But now we're able to be present to the intensity of lunge pose in the way that we weren't before. Right? And what that means to us, to the way that our body's tensing, to our emotional response to it, to the energetic response of our body, is much more authentic presence with it. So what I'm saying is that as we come to able to be present to our internal world, we feel our bodies, we feel our experience with much more precision, much more accuracy, and much more emotional sensitivity. That doesn't necessarily make it like eating a bowl of ice cream, but it means that you feel it more accurately. It's not that meditating, doing yin yoga, doing somatic meditation changes your external circumstances. What happens is that you actually wake up to your internal experience and to what's happening in your external world. And that's actually pretty exciting, because in the past, there might have been a disconnection, or being so much up in your head and in your thoughts, and in your figuring it all out, that there's a kind of trance around it. And that when life becomes overwhelming, it's easy to kind of go into this, thinking it all through. And when life becomes overwhelming and you're connected with the authenticity of your internal experience, and that emotional dial gets turned up and you're seeing clearly what's happening in your external world, it is completely okay to step away from your meditation practices and from your yoga practices, and to go back, take a step back to where you feel comfortable. I just feel like it's important to say that, because, you know, like if coming to your mat at a time where your life feels really, really vulnerable is too much, then it's too much. It's too much. And then you step back. And it can be really important, an important, compassionate and tender and appropriate response to care for yourself in that way at that time. And trust that it might be a temporary step back, or it might be a permanent step back, right? We don't know. But to know that if that's the appropriate way to care for yourself at that time, that's the appropriate response. And this is when we are so lucky here that we have each other as a community, that we do step in and, you know, we do have each other's backs. This is like our favorite thing to say in our family right now, you know, I've got your back. And we do have each other's backs here. And, you know, like, it's not contingent upon practicing, right? It's not contingent upon it's not contingent upon you being a good yogi, you being a good meditator, you showing up to your practice. We're having a food fight in the background right now. So when you take that appropriate step back, that can be a very appropriate thing to do. And then if and when the time is right, you'll feel that call again, or you may feel that call again to come back to your practice. All this to say that waking up to the internal experience, to a greater range of emotional felt experience, to your external life, is a positive development in your journey. And I want to share, and I have kind of shared it across the forum too, something that my teacher Neil said to me on Friday, which is, we practice to meet our lives, not to take another course. And, our practice, and this is what we say in our mantra, each time we say it, when we come to our mats, when we come into the community, it's to connect us to ourselves, to our inner experience, right? Remembering I'm intrinsically good without exception, and I've been giving this precious opportunity of my unique life. That's to connect us to our own selves, to our own unique internal experience. And it's also to connect us to the cosmic body. And we do that through our connection to the earth, when we connect with the openness, the vastness, the stillness, the peacefulness of the earth. And then we also connect to the interpersonal body, when we connect with the openness, the responsiveness, and the tenderness of our hearts, and recognize relationships as where we connect with other people, right? We don't, when we say our mantra each day, we don't say, and I promise to practice every day. I mean, we say, I find ways to engage we do say I find ways to engage in daily practice in my everyday life, but it's not like I'm ticking off a box. When I practice, I'm a good person. That's not what we're saying, right? It's very different than that. So, like, to me, that was just like so important that, we really keep that at the foreground, is that we practice to meet our lives, the practice is not the end in itself, right? And it kind of goes back to what we said before we started the recording today, which was that, that yoga, there is this conception still that yoga is the postures, and that's a certain part of it, but what do they allow us to do, right? What they allow us to meet our lives. And so that's really what I think is important. So I'll turn it over to you now so you can introduce yourselves and respond or ask any questions, and then we can go into the meditation that I have prepared for you today as well.
Hi, I'm Anne-Marie and I'm calling from Australia. The talk today was really beautiful, I thought. Everything you said I could just so relate to, and I could actually respond to so much of that talk, but I'm only going to pick one thing, and I'm just going to talk about one thing, what's been alive for me the last few weeks. I've found that when I say the mantra, I'm connecting more and more with my emotional body. That's not me, that feedback. Connecting more and more with my emotional body. And the last few weeks I've had a tone of anger and irritation. So when I tune in, I can really feel that anger and irritation. But that's something in the past that I've often turned away from. Like, I've let it arise maybe when I'm having my period, because when I'm menstruating, I always take a couple of days for myself, and I let it come up then, but the rest of the month I turn away from it. But I've stayed with it the last few weeks, even though it's been really uncomfortable, and it's not just been appearing when I'm doing my mantra. It's popping up at different times throughout the day, and I'm just letting it be there. And then a couple of weeks ago, I was drawn to go to Reggie Ray's website, and then I listened to a talk about how, you know, certain feelings that are there, and just be with them, just let the energy of it, you know, do its own thing. So, you know, I stayed with it, tried not to attach stories to it. When the stories attached, tried just to watch the energies. And then the last few days, I had the feeling that the people who were triggering me just now, they weren't the source of the irritation and the anger. It was something in my body, you know, from my childhood. And then at the weekend, I was reading one of Reggie Ray's books, Body Touch and Enlightenment, and he gives an example about, you know, something from his childhood. And I thought, yeah, this anger and irritation, it isn't from now. So instead of trying to figure it out in my head, I said, I don't have to know what the story is, you know. I said to my ego, you know, like, oh, here comes the drama guy again, you know, he wants to give me a big story. And I was like, enough. I was like, my body's got this. Just, you know, when it's ready, it will go. And then yesterday morning, when I tuned into my somatic practice, and then again this morning, today, when Melissa said the mantra, I could feel that irritation and anger was gone. I felt a lightness since yesterday morning. And at the moment, the emotional presence that's alive for me just now is a really, really deep sadness. You know, I can just feel tears coming, just feel some sadness. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with everyone.
Thank you.
I'm retired and generally take control over the pace of my life. 2 points I wanted to make about that is today I had something that's paperwork that I find challenging to do. And so gently worked myself into it, gently sat down to do it, compassionately worked my way through it, put a stamp on the envelope, sent it out, called somebody about an additional problem, and they said, oh, well, you know, such and such is done on that form. So I went out to the mailbox and got it back and redid it. You have to know my personality. I can't stand to redo things. So I finished all that. And I was really happy I'd gotten it done on time. I was glad I'd kind of built myself up to do it. But oddly enough, I had to pull myself away from continuing with the paperwork because there was more to be done. I'm like, it's 30 more minutes or whatever. And I decided, no, you put it down. It's not going to be picked up. It won't be picked up till tomorrow anyway, so it's a moot point. And I made myself go out and take a walk, which I didn't really want to do either, but it was much better for me. And walking, I enjoyed. That kind of shifted my gears. That's one thing. Tomorrow is in complete contrast. I have a lot of things that just fell on tomorrow. I'll usually do 1 or 2 things structured in a day. I've got like 5 things structured tomorrow. And the whole time you're talking about being present in the moment and feeling things, I'm not really sure I can handle one of the things I'm going to take on tomorrow. A friend of mine has had a stroke, and she's recovering with speech therapy and dealing with aphasia. And so she has trouble finding the right word or saying a word that means what she wants it to mean in the context. And what her program is suggesting is almost like you'd learn a foreign language. She's to spend 15, 30 minutes with different people one-on-one and practice talking, whether she can remember the word or not. And I'm like, I don't really know if I can do this or not. I'm going to show up, but I'm going to say, here we go. But I don't know how it's going to go. I'm rather anxious about that. So being present in the moment and trying to be relaxed is going to be what I will focus on. It's not about me, but on the other hand, I'm there. So I'm anxious about it.
I bet it helps just to acknowledge that anxiety.
Yeah. I believe you should try, here's in my head, but it's in my heart too. I believe you should try to help people when the opportunity presents itself. And so, in a certain sense, I always welcome the opportunity to pay it forward. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this or not. I'm just going to have to jump in and say, I sink or I swim, and decide after I've given it a good American try to see how it went.
Mhm. Yeah. So in the context of the teaching talk that we had today, there's like this self-image that you have, right, of yourself as a helpful person.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's these deeper emotions coming forward of like,
I want to run and hide.
I'm not really sure that I can live up to this expectation I have of myself here. Yeah. Which is scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet, you're still opening to the experience.
Yep. I wish that day were a really easy day on either side of it.
Right.
But it just didn't work out that way. Nothing's hard. It's scheduled. I don't respond to being structured willingly. I like to have a lot of freedom in what I do when I do it. I'm very spoiled that way.
I learned that about you.
Yeah? Yeah?
On the day I got to spend with you here.
I know. For the rest of you, you have to know I'm married to a very structured spouse.
and she's very good at managing you too, I have to say.
Thank you.
My name is Shar, and I think what Betsy was just saying is what I struggle with is just to be present with the craziness that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the uncertainty of what's coming next, and being okay with being afraid and having the anxiety, and, you know, just opening to that experience and just being able to open up to whatever comes next and be okay with it.
Anxiety sucks, doesn't it?
Totally.
Totally. It feels so horrible in your body. It feels so horrible in my body. I'm assuming it feels horrible in pretty much everybody else's body.
It does. Too. Yes.
Yeah.
the physical sensation of it, and there's a real intensity to it as well. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm Ria. I'm from Harrison, New Jersey. Well, I suffer from anxiety a lot, so I can relate to that a lot. It's sometimes for me it's very hard to be present. I find it's easier for me now that I've been doing the somatic meditation for a year and been here in the community, and it's changed me a lot over the course of the year, where before I think I was so numb to everything that was around me that last year, I think that I've always been stressed at work. I think last year, since I've been open more to what I'm feeling, it's just the stress really felt horrible in my body. Where before, it was more of a numb sensation. It was just there and I didn't really feel it. So this last year, it really did a number on my body. I mean, I've never been aware of it as I did like last year. So sometimes it's still hard to be present with anxiety. I mean, I'm anxious about the trip to visit my mother and my sister, but I'm finding it a little bit easier as I'm just breathing and opening to what, maybe it's not going to be that bad, and just opening to what's actually happening, in my life. It's been a big change for me, actually being open.
Mm-hmm. That's the point. It's not that we become immune to these things in our lives. It's that we wake up to the things that are happening in our lives, which is what you're saying. And then, things can happen in our lives and we will still tense up against them. And that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with us. It's just that we are connecting with what's true and authentic with us for in the moment, right? In the experience. So I think I've talked about this in the past, right? That we're not training to be emotional zombies or spiritual zombies, or I don't know what words I've used for it quite, but it's something like that. You know, we are, you know, training to be emotionally responsive. And so, you know, that really embodied response of feeling tense around, you know, we've heard a bit about your job. It does sound really stressful.
It is.
Right? Yeah. And, you know, the expectations that are placed on you do sound unreasonable. And also that this trip that's coming up, of course, those responses are going to be tense and you don't know how it's going to be. And that can be the worst of it, right? Not knowing how it's going to be.
Yeah. And
So
opening
those
up
are
to that, to not knowing.
the not knowing. Yeah. Right? Because when you're in lunge pose, you can kind of cope with the,
Yeah,
right? You can cope with the intense.
I can. It's
But
just
it's almost like when you hear like, we're going to do 6 lunges in yoga class, your whole body goes, what? Right? Until you've actually done each one in its course, right? To give a sort of silly example. It's like we're not training to be perfect. And nobody expects anybody to cope with the whole rest of their life perfectly just because they practice meditation or yoga.
And that's the confusing part about it. Everybody expects you to be perfect.
Who?
So if you're doing yoga and meditation,
Who does?
I don't know, but everybody always thinks that, oh, you do yoga and meditation, you should be so calm and you're so calm, and like, no, I'm not.
Yeah. Maybe we all need those pins, right? You know, that card that says, I do yoga and meditation, I still feel like I want to slap somebody. Like,
Yes.
we just need to like wear those just so you know.
I want mine in some soothing shade of teal.
Kind of like a warning.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I've seen those shirts and pins.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah. Like, I'm just a real person. Yeah. So today, for better or worse, the plan is to open us up to our inner world more. I know, exactly. Yes. Sure, exactly. It's not. Well, like, I've been reading Karen Brody's book, and it's like, okay, so we're going to do Yoga Nidra, and I think like there's just an incredible depth that's available to us with Yoga Nidra. One that goes just beyond. And I think it can be really productive for us to spend the next few weeks preparing our body for the practice, which would be, I just think that would be really great to prepare, to create. It's like, what do you call it when you do the rotator thing on the soil to prepare the soil?
So,
So,
yeah.
Rototiller.
Aerating? You aerate it? Or aerating? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like that. We get the body ready. And then when you do the Yoga Nidra, it will just, there'll be space in the body for the practice even. That's my thought on it. So what we're going to do today is a practice that you all know about as yogis called 3-part breathing. That really allows us to explore our body from the inside. It opens us up to the interior of our body, and it opens up our experience and our awareness. And as you all know from this practice, which I'm sure if you've spent any time practicing yoga, you breathe into your lower belly, your mid chest, and your upper chest. And what this does is it enables us to be aware of our body from the inside, particularly in our torso, so that we can feel what it's like to not only breathe into our body, but to feel the internal emotional landscape of our body as well. When we're talking the lower belly, we're talking perineum to navel, and then the mid body is sternum to navel. And then the upper chest is the area right underneath your collarbone, so it's quite high. And what you do with this practice is you fill each one of those areas with breath. If the image of a balloon is helpful for you, you can use that image of filling the balloon and letting the balloon deflate on the exhale, filling it as you breathe in, letting it deflate as you breathe out. And when you do this breathing, you're getting to know a couple of things. You're getting to know where there's tension in these parts of your body, where you're holding and gripping in a different way than you do with somatic meditation. When you take to that full to medium full breath, you'll notice where there's holding. And when you breathe out, there's an opportunity to release that holding. And, this isn't something that's going to happen all at once in the first 3-part breathing practice. I think this is a practice that would be beautiful for you to take up over time, over the next few weeks, to put it into your somatic meditation practice rotation. I think also you'll notice emotional tones, undertones, and overtones, and all sorts of layered experiences, because our breath is really connected with our emotional and feeling life. You'll notice that when you're angry, you breathe differently. When you're calm, you breathe differently. When you're upset, you breathe differently. One of the ways that we restrict our breathing, we restrict our experience in addition to tensing, is with our breath. Even just think about when you're really anxious, you kind of stop breathing. You notice that you stop breathing. Or I've written about this on the forum, like when I'm really upset crying, it's like that gaspy crying. So that's very much that tensing breath, right? You're not even breathing anymore. There's that gasping. So just in the same way as there's emotional information that you don't want to receive in your body, you tense and freeze your body so you don't have to feel it. We also restrict our experience with our breathing, and we breathe in an impartial way. We breathe in an incomplete way. We hold our breath. So this helps us to tune into the nuances of that with our breath. So we start to open our body, our torso, lower belly, mid chest, upper chest, all 3 areas. And then the range of our experience can increase. Over time, you'll start to notice that you breathe in a much more unrestricted way. There's a real sense of satisfaction that comes from this. We've talked about this over a number of years here in our membership community. If you've been around for a long time, the Insomnia series in particular has the 3-part breathing as the breath that I recommend to do when you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't fall back asleep, because there's that breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, breathe out, and you just follow that breath down. There's a real grounding quality to that is similar to that feeling of falling asleep, right? And it gives a great sense of relaxation and groundedness. So it is a great one for insomnia, for calming your mind. It really helps you to become still in your body. And it really does help you connect with your energetic body as well. I was saying to Maria when we first came on the call here too this morning, I attempted to practice this. And when I lay down, it will connect you with fatigue in your body like no other practice. If you're tired, you will fall asleep. So, yeah, it will connect you with your energetic body. And if you have energy, you'll connect with that as well. I do find this practice to go either way, and anywhere in the middle too. But yeah, it will give you an accurate reflection of where your energetic body is for sure. So it's a very beautiful practice for you to open up to the feelings that and emotions that are waiting for you in your body. And also one that allows us to connect with our own personal experience, but also the interpersonal experience and the cosmic body, like particularly in the lower belly. That's very much the cosmic body, the earth body. So it's very beautiful that way. The mid body is very much the heart connection, and also even the upper chest, the expressive. It's very much connected to the interpersonal body as well. So a really beautiful, meaningful practice that allows you to connect with your inner authentic experience, especially with the emotional and energetic bodies. So I think it's a very fertile one for preparing the ground for Yoga Nidra. And so I'm very excited to practice it with you in the coming weeks leading up to practicing Yoga Nidra together. So we are going to do it lying down. So you can lie down on your backs with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor. And really let your body sink into the earth underneath you. Let your body relax. And feel the support of the earth underneath you. And just notice how as soon as you take this shape on the floor, your body already knows how to release tension, how to relax. And there's a kind of melting into the earth that starts to happen. And we're going to start with the short 10 points before we go into the 3-part breathing proper. So you'll begin with your feet, sensing into the felt sensations of your feet, the tension in your feet. Letting that tension unwind and release, let go down into the earth. Then open your awareness into your lower legs. Feeling tension in your shin bones, the calf muscles from your knees down to your ankles. Letting that tension flow down through your lower legs, through your feet, and into the earth. And then feel your buttocks resting on the earth, letting go of any gripping or tension and opening up into the experience of your hips and your pelvis. And then opening your experience of your upper legs from your knees down to your hip bones. And the whole upper legs from the bones and the muscles that wrap around the bones. And then feel your lower ribs resting on the ground beneath the sternum. Open your awareness into your lower torso, your stomach, your abdominal organs, the lower lungs, and the lower rib cage. And letting that tension drain down through your side ribs and your back, your lower belly. And then feel your shoulder blades on the earth. Feeling the tension in your shoulder blades. And up through your upper back and your upper chest, the collarbones, the shoulders. Letting that tension drain down and through. And feel your elbows heavy on the ground. Let the tension from your shoulders slide down through your upper arms, through your elbows into the earth. And then feel the tension in your hands and your forearms. Let it go down through your forearms and into your elbows and into the earth. And then finally, your head. Opening your awareness to tension in your head, in your face, your eyes, your eyebrows, your temples, in your brain. Letting all of that just slide down through the back of your head and into the earth. And then in a very gentle way, we're going to continue our exploration of your interior body, of your inner body. And if your hands aren't already resting on your lower belly, you can let them rest on your lower belly with your elbows heavy on the ground so your shoulders can stay relaxed. And you're going to begin by breathing into your lower belly. You'll pick a place midway between your navel and your perineum towards the back of your body. So fill your lower belly on your in-breath and empty your lower belly on your out-breath. You're going to bring your breath in a focused and an intentional way, feeling your lower belly puff out as you breathe in. And then feel your lower belly drop back as you breathe out. As you breathe into your lower belly, just notice where there's tension. See where you can relax. And breathing into your lower belly, your breath slows down. You feel it coming in very long and slow, very gentle and even ways. And when your lower belly is full, just follow it as it flows out very gently, a very even, very moderate way. And as you fill your lower belly with your breath, breathe in towards the back of your lower belly, because there's a huge potential for awareness towards the back of your lower belly. See if you can sense into the felt sensation of breathing into your lower belly, feeling it, the sensation, maybe even the pressure of filling your lower belly towards the back of your spine. Seeing how much breath you can take in, not to the point of discomfort or tension, but feeling it towards the back of your lower belly, along your spine. And as you breathe into your lower belly, allow your entire body to relax. At the same time, around the lower belly, in the lower belly. Notice how there is a space opening up in your lower belly. And this space is filled with awareness. Feelings and emotions may arise, and allow yourself to open to them without judgment. When we open up the space in our lower belly with our breath, it opens our relationship to the earth, to everything that is basic and fundamental to us. It opens us to our sexuality. And so we open to whatever is arising with an attitude of non-abandoning attention. Notice how the space of the lower belly is opening. There's space opening up here, relaxation, experience, contentment, all waiting to be discovered in your lower belly. And keep opening to the experience of being. In the lower belly, we are experiencing being rather than feeling, expressing, doing, or thinking. And then move your hands up to your mid-chest so that your hands rest on your mid-chest at the bottom of your breastbone over your lower ribs, your elbows still resting heavy on the ground. And you want to breathe into your lower ribs so that your breath lifts the bottom of your sternum. And then breathe out, letting it fall back. As you breathe in, you're going to fill the entire cavity behind the bottom of the breastbone. It may be helpful to visualize a balloon there, filling on your breath in, deflating on your breath out. You want to take a big enough breath that you're able to lift the breastbone up, open the lower ribs out, and even feel your breath open up your back body. As you breathe into your mid-body, you want the breath to feel full, not to the point of discomfort. Remember, you may start to become aware of tension, but that tension might be tension that's already there, not coming from the breath. And as you breathe out, feel the collapse of the ribs, of the sternum, of the lungs. And feel the emotional tone of breathing into the mid-chest. As you begin to breathe into the mid-chest, there's a lot to experience there. And you can track the emotional tone. You can stay right with the breath as it comes all the way in, as it goes all the way out. Notice what the breath feels like on the back of your spine. Your mid-chest has to do with feeling. Notice just how different the experience of breathing into the mid-chest is on an emotional level compared to breathing into the lower belly. Your lower belly contains everything, the whole foundation, your basic experience. Your mid-chest, the sensations, the experience is much more personal, much closer to the surface. There's a feeling of impending emotionality. Notice how this is a space that gives birth to feeling. See if you can notice that. So full breaths, the fullness of experience. And notice to hear the big space that is being created with your breath. Sense into the big interior space in your mid-chest. It feels different than your lower belly, maybe more intensity, a sense of being closer to the surface, maybe a little more edgy, more complex, more layers. You can feel this and sense this. And then we'll come to your upper chest. Place your fingertips on your collarbones to enhance your awareness. And let your elbows stay on the ground. And breathe up and under the collarbones. Bringing your breath right up under the collarbones. Lifting your collarbones with your in-breath as much as you can. So this may take a little bit more effort and exertion to lift your collarbones as you breathe in. Keep feeling with your fingers and notice if you're lifting your collarbones on your in-breath. It's a very full in-breath as much as you can. Totally let go on the out-breath. And notice the distinct feeling of breathing into the upper chest compared to the mid-chest or the lower belly. The upper chest is a basis and birthing place for expression in the throat. By breathing into the upper chest, you might be able to feel an impending expressivity. A feeling that you might give birth to expression. that you might express your feelings. We are breathing into the birthplace of expressivity. As you breathe into the upper chest, again, it may be helpful to visualize the balloon. And feel that big space that you're creating in the upper chest. Breathing back to the spine in the back of the upper chest. You can even spread your breath along your collarbones, to your shoulders, even feeling your breath coming up to your neck. This is a way of breathing that is quite non-habitual. The whole new way of breathing that you can feel from the space that you are creating on the inside. And then another time when we have more time, we'll connect the three, but come back and place your hands on your belly and just feel into the interior space of your body. Lie quietly and feel your whole body. And when it feels complete, you can come back up to seated. Any questions about that practice?
That really was relaxing.
Very difficult trying to breathe to where you're up by your collarbone. You know, it's just like, wow. I guess it just shows you how shallow sometimes you actually do breathe, you know?
Yeah, I found that to be true too. And then quite fascinating too, because then the energy isn't there for expressivity either.
Mm. True.
So for those of us that find it challenging to express ourselves or communicate, and you guys would probably find that ironic that I find it difficult to express and communicate, express myself, but I do. If there's not that prana there, right, then of course it's going to be difficult to express yourself.
It does feel very different.
Very different.
It feels very different in the upper chest area. It has just a different feeling about it altogether. When we started this breathing, I had actually, for the first time in somatic meditation, a sharp hurt. I wouldn't call it a pain. That went down the right side of my thoracic ribs against my back. And I'm like, what was that? So I just tried to, because we've been doing this a while, you say just breathe into it and let it relax. And so I didn't jump up and run away. And it did go away, but I'm like, I have no idea what that was. But it felt very different in different parts of the body. It really does, the breathing.
It's interesting how breath can uncover tension in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
I think with the 10 points too, it can be we can almost come into it with the mind over the body kind of approach, where with the breath, I think we can almost let the mind take more of a back seat and a more internal felt experience arises.
Yeah, I had less discursive thought today than I normally have, which was interesting now that you're saying that. And I was really aware of today how every part of the body breathed differently. It's probably an awareness that I've probably in the past been aware of when I'm in different emotional states, that I maybe breathe differently. But today was the first time I could actually see how each body part breathed very, very differently, which was really interesting. Yeah, and then all round the collarbones. Yeah, how difficult that was all round the collarbones. And then when you gave us the cue about like breathing in from the chest or something, and I changed my focus from my collarbone to actually just imagining that the chest was breathing in and out, it felt different again, and it kind of as if I was like taking the pressure off the collarbone, so it didn't feel quite so much in the limelight, but it still made me aware how sort of like numb and concrete that area is. It's like it's encased.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that was really, really interesting today with the breath. But it was I feel very peaceful, very tranquil, very relaxed, but also energized, relaxed, not falling asleep, relaxed.
Yeah, like I say, I think it can give you a very accurate reflection of where your energetic body is at. So if you're tired, you're going to feel tired right now. But go ahead, Maria.
That's me.
Yeah,
I feel tired. Yeah.
You're feeling fatigued right now.
Yeah. Well, it's nighttime for us here, so.
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, but it's very calming. Very calming.
I think it's a practice that would be interesting to explore on a daily basis for a few weeks leading into transitioning into Yoga Nidra. So I will do my best to get it up on the forum tomorrow so that you guys can practice with it in the coming weeks, because I think it will really create an internal space for the Yoga Nidra to land. Because when you think about all those Marma points, I realize we go into the extremities as well, but it just lays the groundwork, I think, really quite beautifully we've done so much work through the whole body already, but I think this really creates a good space, reading what Karen Brody says about the Yoga Nidra being an inner, opening us to our inner experience. This just really beautifully opens the pranic body, the energetic body, the emotional body to be able to receive the Yoga Nidra. Yeah, which I think is really great. So I thought it would be a good one to lead into with that. Okay, so thank you for being here, and I'll see you on the forum. And there is a indulgence class this Sunday. Yeah, at the same time as this class. So. Okay. So Monday for you, Emery, in person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Namaste. I'll do one handy one.
Okay. Bye.